Hey guys, it's the Brookstore here, and I'm back again for another set review. And today, I'm going to be talking about the Rebel Ewing Starfighter from Andor. So for the information on the set, it released in 2025 for a retail price of $70, and this has set number 75399, 594 pieces, 4 minifigures, and an age rating of 8+. First, let's talk about the figures. And the figures included in the set are Andor, K2SO, Dedra, and an IBS tactical agent. Andor, unsurprisingly, looks pretty good, with some nice printing on his legs, a pretty good torso print with a brown vest, and he also has a nice face print. His second face is just a bit more of a stern expression, and he has a decent back print. Definitely the standout figure of the set would have to be the return of K2SO. The figure has a very unique mold for his torso and head, and they are actually molded in together, which means you can't turn the head. There's a bit of printing on his chest with a little control panel and some lights. And on the bar that connects his arms to the body, there is even a little Imperial logo. And the figure just uses the Super Battle Droid legs in black and regular Battle Droid arms. And this K2SO is actually different than the one that released in 2016 because the previous one had a slightly different print for the torso and also some extra printing for some battle damage. Now onto these two. Overall, Dedra I think looks pretty good. She has a great torso print and a pretty accurate face print. And she even includes a unique mold for her hat and hair, which I think looks great. Her back print is pretty detailed. And this is her second face. And overall, I think the figure looks pretty good. However, I really have an issue with her legs. Because historically, LEGO's had a difficult time printing lighter prints on darker pieces, and this is no exception. So the print on her legs doesn't match the torso, and it just doesn't look that good. So they definitely should have used dual molded legs. The IBS agent looks pretty good, with some nice printing for some Imperial armor, and he just uses a pretty common minifigure head, with the standard Imperial officer hat. And this is his back print. Now, onto the build. So, yeah, this is our first playset Ewing since 2016. However, this set is downscaled from the previous Ewing, which isn't great, however, at least it costs less than the previous one. The whole ship, overall, looks pretty good. I really like the hints of blue and yellow throughout the builds. I think that just adds a lot of nice color. Both wings look pretty good, however, they are not symmetrical, which is fine. However, I can definitely see that annoying some people. The engines, of course, look very nice, with some nice blue thrust, and some detail right there. At the front of the ship, there are 2 blasters, and some spring-loaded shooters right there. To fire them, you just push down right here. The cockpit looks decent. However, the white printing doesn't exactly match the bricks. However, it's not a terrible discoloration. Behind the cockpit, there is this gray section with some grills, and if you're curious, that little Technic thing doesn't do anything. It is just for decoration. You can, of course, open up the cockpit, and inside there is some nice brown padding and a pretty good control panel. Andor just sits right there, and you can close up the cockpit. However, I'm not a huge fan of how far back he is sitting, because he is essentially looking straight up. And these wings can actually detach, just like that, and then that ball joint connects right there. So you can have the ship in this mode. And it doesn't look terrible, however, I wouldn't display it like this. Underneath the ship, there are some windows right there, and a whole panel, which you can open up. But there really isn't too much space in there. However, when you set a figure in there, you do have to lean them back a lot. Otherwise, their head will hit the ceiling. And in front of Andor, there is actually a unique control panel. And in case if you are wondering, those clips aren't meant to hold any weapons. They are supposed to prevent the door from going back too far. And under the front of the ship, there is actually a pretty large window right there. However, it doesn't really lead anywhere. And in the back, there is this gray area, which you can open up. However, it doesn't serve any purpose. So I kind of wish they used this as some sort of storage spot, maybe to put Andor's weapon. But would I recommend that you get this set? Honestly, I think so. I don't think the price is terrible. The build looks great, and the figure selection I think is pretty good. However, I am not a huge fan of Dedger's legs. And if you already have the Ewing from 2016, then I wouldn't recommend that you get this one. But overall, I think I would give this set about a 7 out of 10.